In the winter of 1943, in a village so small it did not appear on any map, a nun walked into the forest with a basket of bread and came back carrying something no one expected: a litter of wolf cubs, half-frozen and motherless, pressed against her chest like they already knew she was the only warmth left in the world. And if you think that sounds like the beginning of a fairy tale, stay with me, because what those wolves did for that village 3 years later is the reason this story is still whispered about in that valley to this very day. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something simple. If you love true stories of brave nuns, secret missions, and courage hidden in the most unlikely places, then you are already home, and this is the moment to hit that subscribe button on The Secret Nun, because we bring you these hidden stories every single week, and you do not want to miss the next one. Now, let me take you back to that frozen morning, and I promise you, by the time we reach the end, you will never look at a wolf the same way again. The woman at the center of this story was named Sister Anna, and she lived in a small convent on the edge of a village called Karpina, a place where the mountains pressed in from all sides and the winters lasted long enough to make people forget what green looked like. She was not young, and she was not famous, and she had never done anything the world would call remarkable. She taught the village children their letters, she helped the farmers when their animals were sick, and she prayed every morning before the sun came up. But the one thing everyone in Karpina knew about Sister Anna was that she could not walk past a wounded animal without stopping, because she believed that kindness was not something you saved for people, it was something you offered to every living thing that crossed your path. And so when a woodcutter told her he had found the body of a she-wolf in the snow, shot by hunters, with a den of newborn pups somewhere nearby, Sister Anna did not hesitate even for a second. She wrapped herself in her thickest wool, took the basket she used for collecting herbs, and she walked straight into the trees while the whole village shook their heads and said that woman was going to get herself killed. She found them in a hollow beneath a fallen tree, 3 tiny grey bundles so young their eyes had not even opened, and the moment she lifted the first one into her hands, it stopped shivering, and that was the exact second Sister Anna understood that these creatures had been waiting for someone to choose them. She carried all 3 back to the convent, fed them warm goat's milk through a cloth twisted into a point, and she named them the way you would name children: Misha, Zora, and the smallest one, a runt, she called Bronco, which meant protector. And here is where the story gets its first turn, because the villagers were not grateful, and they were not charmed, and they did not see 3 helpless babies, they saw the sons and daughters of the very beast that had been killing their sheep for as long as anyone could remember, and they wanted them gone. They came to the convent gates in a group, and they told Sister Anna, plainly, that wolves could not be tamed, that a wolf would always be a wolf, and that she was risking every child in Karpina by keeping them alive. But Sister Anna did something in that moment that changed everything. She looked at the men who were demanding she throw those pups back into the cold, and she said, quietly, "I will raise them with love, and you will watch what love can do." And then she closed the gate, and she went back inside, and she kept them. What followed were the strangest 3 years that village had ever seen, and I want you to understand this clearly, because everything that happens later depends on you believing it. Sister Anna raised those wolves not as pets, and not as wild animals locked in a pen, but as members of her family, and she never once raised a hand to them, never once put a chain around their necks, and never once treated their wildness as a thing to be beaten out. They slept at the foot of her bed in the cold months, they followed her through the garden while she worked, and when she went to the village to teach, they would wait at the edge of the trees, patient as stone, until she came back. And slowly, so slowly that no one noticed it happening, the village began to change the way it looked at them, because a strange and wonderful thing started to occur. The sheep stopped disappearing, the foxes that had been raiding the chicken coops vanished, and the children, who had once been forbidden to go near the convent, began to leave scraps of meat at the gate just to watch the great grey creatures come and take them gently from their hands. People started to say, in low voices, that maybe Sister Anna had been right, that maybe a wolf raised with love was not the same as a wolf raised with fear, and that was the calm before the storm, because the winter of 1946 was coming, and it was bringing something with it that no amount of love would be able to stop. The war had ended, but its ragged edges were still bleeding across the mountains, and the men who came over the pass that winter were not soldiers with uniforms and orders, they were deserters, and bandits, and desperate men who had learned during the war that the only law that mattered was the one you enforced with a rifle. They moved through the remote valleys like a fever, taking food, taking livestock, taking whatever they wanted, and leaving nothing but burned roofs and terrified families in their wake. The villages higher in the mountains sent runners ahead of them with warnings, and the warning that reached Karpina was simple and absolute: they are coming. There are more than 30 of them, and they are not asking, they are taking. And so the village did the only thing a village can do when it has no army and no walls. It gathered in the chapel, and the men armed themselves with pitchforks and old hunting rifles, and the women hid the children in the cellars, and everyone knew, in the quiet way that people know such things, that this would not be enough. It was Sister Anna who spoke first, and what she said was so strange that no one knew how to answer her. She said, "We have protectors already. We have 3 of them, and they have been waiting their whole lives for this night." And now I have to slow down for just a moment, because what happened next is the part of this story that people find hardest to believe, and I need you to understand that every single person who survived that night swore to it until the day they died. The bandits came at dusk, torches in hand, moving through the snow in a long dark line, and they did not bother to hide their coming, because they did not need to. They had guns, and the village had only fear. But when they reached the edge of the houses, they stopped, because standing in the road, directly in their path, was a single woman in a nun's habit, and she did not have a weapon, and she did not look afraid, and she was flanked on either side by 3 full-grown wolves, the largest of them taller than the men's waists, their heads low and their eyes catching the torchlight like amber fire. The leader of the bandits laughed, because that is what men like him do when they see something they do not understand, and he raised his rifle, and he said something about shooting the wolves first and the witch second. But Sister Anna did not flinch, and she did not run, and she raised her hand in the same gentle motion she used to bless the children every Sunday, and she whispered a single word that no one else could hear, and that word, whatever it was the last sound before the night split open. The wolves did not attack like animals. That is the detail the survivors repeated over and over, the thing that kept them awake for years afterward, the thing that made them certain something holy had happened in that road. They attacked like soldiers who had been given an order, Misha taking the left flank, Zora the right, and Bronco the runt, the smallest one, the one they had all wanted Sister Anna to drown in the creek. Bronco went straight for the leader. And the men with the rifles discovered in those first horrible seconds that a wolf does not need to be close to make you afraid, that the sound alone, that deep rolling thunder of 3 full-grown wolves moving as one, was enough to turn 30 armed men into 30 boys who had forgotten everything they knew about fighting. The bandits fired, but their hands were shaking, and their shots went wide, and the wolves were already among them, moving too fast for any rifle to follow, and the men broke, and they ran, and they left behind their torches and their packs and their courage, and by the time the moon rose over the mountain, the road out of Karpina was empty except for 3 wolves standing in the snow, breathing hard, looking back at the nun who had raised them as if to ask, simply, "Did we do it right?" Here is the part that will make you want to share this story, so listen closely, because it matters. Not a single man in that raiding party was killed that night, and that was not an accident. It was the most extraordinary detail of all, and it was the reason the story spread the way it did. The wolves had been raised by a woman who had never taught them to hate, and so they did not kill. They drove those men out of the valley the way a shepherd drives, with teeth and with terror and with force, but without the blood that would have made it a massacre. The village children who had fed those wolves scraps at the gate, the same children who had been forbidden to go near them, watched from the windows and saw creatures that had every reason to kill, choose instead to protect, and in that choice, they saw the only sermon Sister Anna ever needed to preach. And the men who had once come to the convent gates demanding the pups be thrown into the snow, those same men, they came back the next morning, and they did not say a word, they just knelt in the road where the wolves had stood, and they put their hands on the ground, and they wept. Sister Anna lived for many years after that night, and the wolves lived beside her, and the village of Karpina became a place that people traveled to see, not because it was famous, but because travelers had heard there was a nun whose wolves guarded her like saints. When each of the wolves grew old and died, the village buried them in the convent garden with small stone markers, and Sister Anna wept over each grave the way she had once wept over their mother, and when she herself finally passed, the whole valley came to her funeral. And the people of Karpina told a story that no one could ever verify, but no one ever doubted that on the night she died, the sound of wolves howling had echoed through the mountains, not in grief, but in greeting, as if the pack she had raised was calling her home. And I want you to sit with that for just a moment, because that is the true heart of this story, not that a nun raised wolves, but that a single woman, armed with nothing but kindness, stood between her village and destruction, and the creatures she had loved were the ones who stood beside her. So now I have to ask you, and I mean this genuinely, because your answer is what keeps these stories alive. If this story moved you, If you felt even a flicker of that warmth when Sister Anna lifted those frozen pups out of the snow, then share it with someone, because a story this powerful was never meant to live in only one pair of hands. Send it to a friend who loves history, or to someone who needs to be reminded right now that kindness is not weakness, and that the most unlikely protectors sometimes come from the places we least expect. And then come down to the comments and tell me the honest truth. Did you believe this story the first time you heard it? Or did you, like the villagers, think those wolves could never be tamed? I read every single comment, and I want to know what part of Sister Anna's story stayed with you the longest, because every person who hears it carries away a different piece of it. And if you want more true stories of brave nuns, secret missions, and courage hidden in the shadows of history, then make sure you are subscribed to The Secret Nun, because the next story we tell might be about someone just like Sister Anna, someone history forgot, but someone whose courage deserves to be remembered, and that is exactly what we are here to do. Thank you for watching until the very end, thank you for believing, and remember, the quietest hands in history are very often the ones that held the whole world together.